In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make these super cute knit strawberries. Now, I really enjoyed this project for many reasons. One is obviously they're super cute and my kids love them and they're already fighting over them. So they're a hit in that way. But I also love them because I got to challenge myself in making something. I hadn't really made many stuffed things before, so this was a kind of a fun project to create something that was like, 3D, if you will. And in this one, you really get to practice increasing your stitches and then decreasing your stitches to create this shape of the strawberry. And so that was really fun and a bit more challenging than some of the other projects I've done. So I really liked how these turned out, and I really enjoyed knitting them themselves. Now, what's really cool is that just by changing the yarn, this is the exact same pattern, but by changing the yarn, I got a jumbo strawberry and a regular size strawberry. So you get to play with and experiment using different yarn to see how it turns out differently. So that's one of the things I love about knitting is I really do like trying out the same patterns on things, but using different yarns just to create different textures and different looks and feels. So these smaller strawberries were made with this Loops and Threads Cuddle Craft tube, and it's a medium 4. It's 75% cotton, 25% nylon. And it's a super smooth yarn, and it worked out really well, and it just created this nice shape, and the feel of it is really nice too. But this jumbo strawberry, I actually used this thicker, bulkier yarn, which is, let me get the tag here, which is a number 6 super bulky. And this one's actually 100% acrylic. So, they do have a different feel than the other strawberries. But again, same pattern, just different yarn. And obviously turned out to be a totally different size. So I'm actually going to make another jumbo strawberry today with you all so that I can have an even number and give each of my kids, they'll each get one of these. So, they stop fighting over them. Okay, so what you will need to make the strawberries is a yarn of your choice. So either something thinner or a little bulkier, you get to choose. And then you'll also need, I'm gonna be using this green, this is 100% cotton, peaches and cream yarn, and this is just a number 4 as well. I think, this is a number 4 too. Yep. So this is number 4. And then I'm also going to use for the seeds, this peaches and cream number 4 to create the seeds. Again, play with it. Use what you got because you don't really need that much of each of these colors. So if you have other weighted yarn or different textures, experiment with it and see how it turns out for you. Okay, so I'm gonna set those aside because we won't need that till later. You're also gonna need needles. For this bulkier yarn, I'm using my number US 9s, or they're 5.25 millimeter needles. If you are using a thinner yarn, I would recommend a thinner needle. On these strawberries, I used a 4 millimeter needles. And so on this bulkier yarn, I'm using the 5.25, so a little larger. You do want it to be tight though, because we are gonna be stuffing them, and you don't want the knits to be, the stitches to be too loose, because then you'll just be able to see the stuffing in between it. So you want a needle that for your size yarn is gonna be, you can create some tight stitches. Okay. And then because I don't really make too many stuffed items, I don't really have, normal stuffing, I am gonna be using cotton balls today. And in these smaller strawberries, I used, I think 3 or 4 cotton balls. And then in this larger one, I believe it was like 6 or 7. So once we get there, you know, you kind of stuff it to the firmness that you want, but just have a handful of cotton balls on hand if you don't have regular stuffing. Okay. And then of course, scissors, a threading needle, and I do just keep on hand a crochet needle just when we get to the stem. There are a couple different ways that I've been playing with it, that if you want more of this weaved look, you can use a crochet needle to create that look. So have that on hand if you would like to do that on your stem. Okay, so for now, we're gonna just set that aside. All we need to start are our needles and yarn. So this will be a long tail cast on with how I'm going to start with it is with a long tail cast on, and we only need to cast on 6 stitches. However, we're going to be using the tail of the project, which will be the bottom of the strawberry. We're going to use the tail to stitch it up at the end. So you want to have a long enough tail where you're going to be able to stitch up the end. So I'm just going to give myself, you know, plenty of yarn here. Let's see, what is this? This is probably just over 2 feet of yarn for my tail, just so I've got plenty. I always like to have extra. I never like to run out. So now we're going to cast on. So we're going to start with our triangle here. We're gonna grab a hold of that, and then we're just going to go in the same direction as our fingers and twist. This will be our first stitch. And then we're gonna go under our thumb, over our pointer finger, through our thumb, and pull. So that's 2, under our thumb, over our pointer finger, through our thumb, and pull. That's 3, under, over, through, and pull, under, over, through, and pull, under, over, through, and pull. Okay, so here we have our 6 stitches to begin with. Now, this is, you know, it's kind of a long pattern to follow. It's actually going to be 20 rows. And there's not many repeating. It's not really a repeating pattern. So I'm going to post that here with this video as well as in the notes so that you can either print it, write it out, take a picture of it, what have you, so that you can follow along. Okay, so first, let me just put my tail. All right, so first we're going to start our first row. Is going to just be purls. If you need a refresher on how to purl, I will put that link. Sorry, I'm trying to get this yarn organized. I'll put that link here if you need a refresher on how to purl. So remember, we're coming into the top. Sorry, our yarn is in the front. We're coming in over the top. Then we're going to go from front to back around that needle. Then we're going to go behind and pop it off. Again, from the top, come to the front, go from back to front, behind, pop it off the top. From the top, in the front, back to front, behind the needle, pop it off the top. And then our last purl. And pop it off. All right, so that's row 1 is all purls. Next, row number 2 is this is where we begin to increase. So how we're gonna increase is we're gonna do a knit front and back. And what that looks like is we do our regular knit stitch. If you need a refresher on the how to knit this regular knit stitch, I'll put a link to that video as well. But so we're gonna go in the back and do just like we're gonna do a regular knit stitch. And so we're coming in the front. Now here at this point, instead of popping it off the top, you wanna give yourself a little bit extra yarn here so it's not too tight, because now we're actually going to twist and do another knit stitch in the back. And then knit that stitch. Now we pull it to the front again. And now we pop it off the top. And look, now we've increased by 1 stitch because we only had 1, now we've got 2. And then we're going to knit 1. And now we're going to knit front and back. So go in the back, our regular knit. Don't pop it off the top just yet. Give yourself a little bit of extra. Oh, wait, I'm gonna start with that one over because I snagged. All right, so here we go again. Regular knit stitch in the front. Now don't pop it off. We're gonna twist and then knit that back loop. Sorry, make sure I got it here. And now we knit that back loop. And now we pop it off the top. So it's like a delayed pop off the top. You're just going to do kind of a double, just so that you're, already we're increasing. And then we're gonna knit 1. And now again, we're going to knit front and back. So regular knit stitch in the front, but now we want to go twist, grab that back loop. Sometimes it's a little tight. All right, so, okay, let's start over. So this might happen. If it's a little tight, give yourself a little bit more wiggle. And now I'm going in the back. So sometimes you just need to give yourself a little more wiggle to get enough yarn in there. And now we pop it off and then knit 1. So that row, which is row number 2, we did a knit front and back to increase and then knit 1. Knit front and back to increase, knit 1. Knit front and back to increase and then knit 1. So we went from 6 stitches now to 9 stitches. So every time we're doing that front and back, we're actually increasing by 1, okay? Row number 3 is to purl. So we're just going to go in the front. I'm sorry, from the top to the front. We're gonna take our yarn. I'm gonna move my yarn to this side. I should have known better. All right. So now we're going to purl. And so we're purling all the way across. So this is a simple row. All right, so I just purled that whole row. You can see our bumps across, and then you can see how it's creating this pattern on the other side. Okay, so now we still have 9 stitches because we didn't do any increasing. We just purled all the way across. Next, we're doing another increase. And so this one, we're gonna do a knit front and back, knit 2, a knit front and back, knit 2, etc., all the way to the end. So first we start with our knit front and back. So again, act as if you're doing a regular knit stitch. We're not going to pop it off the back, but yet we are going to twist, scoop up that back loop. Now do another knit stitch, bring it to the front, and now pop it off the top. And now we knit 2, 1 and 2. And then we're going to do another knit front and back to increase. So regular knit and twist. Scoop up that back yarn. Knit stitch, bring it to the front. And now pop it off. Knit 2. And so now we went from nine stitches, we increased, and so now we should have 12. Let's see, we have 3, 6, 9, 12. Yep. So you can follow along in the with the pattern and counting your stitches just to know if you're on track. So if you have 12 stitches at this point in row 4, you're right on track. All right, so now row 5, we're going to purl all the way across. So just our regular purl all the way across. All right, so here we've completed now row 5. And we're on to row 6. And so again, we're gonna do another increase. So this time we're gonna do a knit front and back, knit 3, knit front and back, knit 3, knit front and back, knit 3. Okay, so that's the plan here. So we're gonna do a knit front and back. I have to slide my stitches up to the top. So regular knit. And so now we can check our work and make sure we now have 15 stitches. So we got 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Perfect. All right, you can already start to see the shape of your project starting to get wider, and that's going to be the outside of the strawberry. All right, so now we have 15 stitches, and so we're gonna flip our work over, and we're just gonna purl all the way across with this row, number 7. So purl all the way across. 1, 2, and 3. And now we're going to do another knit front and back. So all right, so we purled all the way across. We still have our 15 stitches, and so now we're going to do another row where we're increasing. We're going to do a knit front and back, stitch 4, knit front and back, stitch 4, etc. until we have 18 stitches. So first we start with our knit front and back. Should be getting good at these by now. So we knit, and then we twist, get that back yarn, knit, and pop it off. And then now we're gonna knit 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then now we're gonna do our knit front and back. All right, so now we've increased by another 3. So we should have 18 stitches. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, perfect. All right, so we're right on track. Again, you can continue to see it expanding. And then this next row, we're going to purl the whole row. So this is actually row number 9. So we're just gonna purl this row. All right, so we purled that entire row. We're gonna flip our work over. And now we're going to do another increasing row. And so we're going to knit front and back, knit 2, knit front and back, knit 2, knit front, back, knit 2, all the way down. So let's start with our knit front and back. So knit, or that first stitch, and twist, knit the back. So now we've already increased by 1. Now we're gonna knit 2, 1, 2, and now we're gonna do our knit front and back. All right, so this row, we just completed row 10, and this you should now have 24 stitches. So let's give them a count. So we've got 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, and 24. Perfect. So this is now halfway. We are halfway. So this is, we just completed row 10, and there are 20 rows to the whole project. So let me just say, if you set your project down and come back to it, I like to end on one of the increasing rows because then I can just count how many stitches I have, and that'll tell me what row I'm on. So if I were to take a break here and come back, I'm on row 10, I have 24 stitches. I know I'm gonna start on row 11. Now on row 12, I'll have 30 stitches and etc. So if I were to would have stopped earlier at the 18 stitches or 24 or at 15 stitches, again, that just kind of tells me what row I'm on. And since you're following the pattern, you'll know where to pick up from where you left off. So I am actually gonna set this down for just a few minutes and go do a few other things and come back to it. So I will practice what I'm preaching here. And here's row 10. We'll be back with row 11. All right, so I took a quick break and I came back and I'm reminded that I just fit that this is row 10 because there are 24 stitches. So now I'm gonna move on to row 11, which is to purl the whole row. So I'm gonna purl row 11, slide stitches up. All right, so this is row 11, all purled all the way across. And now row 12, we're going to increase again. This is row 12 is our last increasing row. So we're going to do a knit front and back and then knit 3. and 3. Whew, all right. That's our longest row. So now we should have 30 stitches. This is the widest point of the project. So let's just count to make sure we're on track. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, and 30. Perfect. Okay, so now we have 30 stitches, and now the next 3 rows, we're not going to increase or decrease. So we're going to do a purl, knit, purl. That's the pattern for the next 3 rows. So purl all the way across, knit all the way across, and then purl all the way across before we start our decrease. So I'll speed this up in the video. Okay, so I just completed rows 13, 14, and 15 with a purl, knit, purl. And now I'm on row 16, and this is where we are going to begin the decrease. So instead of knitting front and back to increase and add a stitch, we're going to use the knit 2 together stitch to start to decrease. So by knitting 2 together, that means we're gonna, instead of going under the first stitch here, we're gonna come under the second stitch, and then we're gonna come around the back, and then we're just gonna knit regular as if it's one fat stitch. And so now we're going to knit 3, all right, so this was our first decrease row, and you can already begin to see how it's starting to create that rounded bump where we will bring the 2 ends together for the strawberry. So we're going to now purl the whole next row. So this is row 17. Oh, it's working in the background. Sorry about that. All right, so this is row 17 completed of just all purls. And so I forgot to say earlier that the decrease brought us down to 24 stitches. And so now in row 18, we're gonna do another decrease, and we're actually gonna knit 2 together the whole way down for the entire row. So we're gonna knit 2 together. And knit 2 together again. Knit 2 together, and all the way for the entire row. So you're basically going to cut your row in half because you're knitting the entire row of 2 together. So if we started with 24, at the end of this row, you'll be down to 12 stitches. All right, so we now have 3, 6, 9, 12. Perfect. So row 18, at the end of row 18, you should have 12 stitches. And now we're going to do that again, except this time, since we're flipping our work, we're actually going to purl 2 together. And so it's the same thing of bringing the 2 stitches together, but instead of a knit, we'll do a purl. So you're just going to bring those 2 together. You're going to go through the top of 2 stitches instead of 1. There we go. It's a little tight. And now we're just gonna Hold on, let me get a little bit more yarn here. So now we're just going to purl the two together and pop it off. Two more. And so we will purl two together, oops, for this entire row. Okay, so now we've cut that row in half. So now we have 6 stitches left. And so now we're just gonna do that one more time where we're gonna knit 2 together to bring us down to just 3 stitches. So knitting 2 together all the way down. All right, and now we are down to our 3 stitches, and that was row 20. So now we are complete. You can see it's just curling by itself, almost making that strawberry shape all on its own because there was such that drastic decrease at the top. So what we'll do next is we're going to cut about maybe just another 6 inches or so on the top. It doesn't need to be that long. And set the red yarn aside. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab our threading needle. And if you did decide to use a thinner yarn, I would probably suggest a thinner needle if you have one that has just a smaller opening, because you're gonna have to be pulling that through. And I find it with the thinner yarn that the smaller needle works better. But since we're working with the bulky yarn today, just going to oops, if it wants to pull through, come on, there we go. All right, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to thread the needle through the 3 stitches and pull that through and pull. And so now that top is already cinched. And now remember, I had you create that long tail on the bottom because now we'll use our needle to sew the sides together. So let's get that on our needle. Ugh, this always gives me problems. There we go. Okay. So now we're going to find our end, and we're just going to begin to knit that or sew the 2 ends together. And you definitely want to make sure you get every stitch, because since we will be filling this, stuffing this project, you definitely don't want any gaps in it, because you'll definitely be able to see if you have white stuffing and this bright red yarn, you'll be able to see that inside stuffing. So you're just going stitch by stitch here. All right, and so once you're just over halfway, I'd say, you can already see the shape is taking really well. But what we want to do before we get to the top is we want to then stuff it. And like I said at the beginning, I didn't have any stuffing on hand, so I'm going to use cotton balls. Now, combos have a different density to the stuffing. I feel they're more dense. So just keep that in mind. It'll probably have a different feel than stuffing will, but hey, it works. For me, it works. So that's one. And then you can really, you know, determine how firm you want your strawberry to be. What I find is that you want to really make sure the rounded part gets nice and full, just because you don't want that part to like cave in. You want that to be really nicely defined. So what was that, 3? Was that 3 combos? So there's 4, 5, and I'm gonna put 6 in there. So actually I'm gonna put 7. I think there's a little extra room in there, more than I want. All right, and so now that I've done that, now I can finish the stitching. I might even stuff one more in there. Let's see. Let's see. And so once you get pretty close to where that other stitch, where the top came together, you can just finish that out. Now, because the stuffing's white, you might see it there at the top. It might even push through there a little bit. I like to just kind of go over this a few times to make sure that the red is covering all the white up. And so then I'm just gonna tie these two in a knot. I'll just pull and cinch. Tie that in a nice tight knot. All right, and so there we go. Look at how cute it is. That turned out so nice. And so now we just got to put the finishing touches on. Now we just want to put on the greenery and the stem and the seeds. So let's start with the top. And so what I like to do is just where's my scissors? Here they are. Just cut that nice and short. And now we're just gonna get, let's see, how long is this? I just kind of eyeball it, but I would say I'm going to use, what is that? So that's about 4 feet, give or take. And what I like to do is I actually like to double it up. So it really turns out to be 2 feet, but it's doubled up. So once I put the needle into it, I'm just going to pull it through. And it's doubled, so. All right. All right, so then once I have this doubled, I'm just gonna begin to make kind of this star formation, this star shape. I mean, it doesn't need to be perfect, but you know, it just gives that kind of that shape, that look and feel. So I like to just start in the center and start to make that star. And so I just leave a little tail here so that if I need it to make the stem, I have it. So all I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna knit kind of over itself. Kind of wish I would have went down a little further, but that's okay. We're gonna double it up. And so I'm just coming through again. So it's gonna make a, now you'll notice sometimes it pulls out the stuffing or it pulls out the cotton, and you just gotta pull that out. All right, so then I'm coming back through the center. I'm actually gonna go up a little higher. Come across. Okay, so I've created the star here, and now I just have these two ends, and so I'm going to tie them together just to secure the top. And now here's where you have choices as to how you want the top of your strawberry to look. I mean, you could just tie it in a little knot here, and then you have a loop, and you can, you know, you can hang it somewhere. Or you can braid it if you would prefer to braid it. You can just create a loop and just knot it all the way to the top. I mean, there's different ways. You can crochet it. You can crochet it to the top and give it a braided look. So you can pick how you want the top to be. I think today I'm just gonna knot it all the way to the top. I think that looks cute. And so once you have the stem at the length that you want, just secure that knot. And trim it. And now you have your stem. So all we have left to do is to add the seeds. So how we do that is we just grab some white yarn. I've even used I've used on these, I used this white string, and that actually worked out really well. I had this left over from another project, which is basically the same as this. It's just a little different white color. So I'm just going to use this, and similar to the stem, I'm gonna double it up so that the seeds aren't like too tiny, especially if you used a bigger yarn. I would say definitely you want to double it up. I don't know if you can tell on this one, but see how some of these seeds are like so tiny. And if you like that, I mean, obviously keep it, that, use just a single yarn, but I think I want them just a little bigger. So that's why I'm going to double it up this time. So once that's on my needle, I have that doubled up. Okay. And so all you need to do is, this is a very random approach. If you have something more methodical that you prefer, of course, do that. But all I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of randomly put the seeds in. So let's get all this other stuff out of the way. And so I'm just going to pull these in until they're hidden, like that. And then just, oops, and I'm just going to poke it through. And then I'm just gonna find my next spot. Oops, I pulled that too hard, look. So let's start over, and that's all right, it happens. So I think what I'm gonna do this time is I'm gonna give myself more space. So if I start here, my first seed isn't gonna be until I get over here, and that way, if I pull on it, it's further. Okay, let's do that again. There we go. And then I'm just gonna randomly pull it. Don't pull too much, otherwise you'll pull it out that other end. And again, just randomly putting in my next seed. So then you can start to see that they pop out pretty nicely. And so once you have put on the amount of seeds that you want, you can just simply cut off the needle, and there you go. And so you can see with this strawberry, I put a lot more seeds on than this one. I was just, experimenting. And so, create the look and feel that you want. I just thought that it gave it a little bit more of a strawberry look. So, put the amount of seeds on that you would like. And the next thing you know, you'll have a nice little collection of strawberries, and have fun with it. Try out different yarn, different textures, and have fun. So hope you enjoyed creating this fun and unique different project together. Like and subscribe if you would like to continue to get videos of my work. All right, thanks to everyone. Bye.